Whew. All right, hey guys, so Ben here from Dude Quest, and today's video is about love and basically how it's like falling in love is different than how I imagined it as a kid. And there's a lot of really deeper lessons, and it's like, I don't know, falling in love with my wife has taught me more about life and being a man than like anything else has. And it's really it's built me up, it's broken me down, it's humbled me, and it's made me a stronger guy, you know. So obviously the title of this video is suggestive of kind of the direction that I'm going to go, but I want to open with just a couple stories that have always stuck with me. And the first one is from this little book, Rules for a Night, which basically this guy dug out his was cleaning out some of his family's stuff, and he discovered that buried deep in like the attic somewhere at like his grandpa's place or something like that. He basically just found this in storage, but they had kept the letters of like his older ancestors who actually were knights, and this is a bunch of actual letters translated into modern English of a knight writing to his son and the lessons that he hoped he would learn. And one of my favorite sections of this book is the section on love, right here. And basically he says that love is different than what he expected it to be. So I'm going to read just like a paragraph and a half, and then I'll tell you my other story. So he had met, is the first time he met his to-be wife, and they're at, you know, a big like gathering. He said, later that evening I watched her play the dulcimer. Her intellect, her body, and her emotions seemed to be absolutely one. Her chest rose and fell as she played. She wasn't merely breathing, it was more as if she was being breathed. From that moment forward, she held my beating heart in the palm of her hands. I didn't fall in love with your mother at first sight, the way I'd heard about it in song, or as I'd experienced it with the Duchess. No, it happened slowly, and because of that I could never fall out of love. There was no falling at all. It has been a subtle, ever-growing relationship, one that has given me energy, joy, moments of pure bliss, laughter, romance, but more than anything, we have been and always will be friends. I know that's probably not the fairy tale young people want to hear, but I promise if I were allowed one wish, it would be for each of you to feel the kind of love I feel for and from your mother. And I just love that so much. It's not it's not like this overwhelming feeling. He says earlier, you know, by the time your mother and I first danced at your cousin Philippa's wedding, I realized like a slap to the face that I loved this woman, body and soul, and had for quite some time. How strange that I never even saw it coming. The whole of my boyhood, I expected love to be wild, grand, all-encompassing, and overwhelming. With your mother, it had felt too healthy, too honest and wholesome to be love. And then it goes on to the part that I just read. And I think that's exactly it. You know, when I was a younger guy, my early relationships felt overwhelming and all-encompassing and kind of like, almost like a heavy feeling, you know, like there's a difference between infatuation and true love. And I just think that true love is built on like deep friendship more than it's built on, you know, like a really intense sexual connection or some other kind of thing like that. And every part of a relationship can be a part of true love, but the core of it has got to be friendship. And that's definitely been my experience, you know, with my wife and I. It is really healthy, honest, and wholesome, you know. It always has been. And I think the sense of friendship is what carried us through our entire relationship, and is what carried us through the really, really hard times. So anyway, I share that with you because I think that has always stuck with me ever since I first read it as what love can and perhaps should feel like. And my other story is more of a personal story, to kind of kick us off here. But I was in California visiting a friend of mine, and we were walking around San Francisco, and we sat in a park. And this was during the period of time where I had planned out my proposal to my wife, but had not yet proposed. So we were still just dating. And I was working up towards telling him that I was going to propose, soon. And before I could get there, he asked me, we were talking about dating and relationships, and he asked me what boxes my wife, then girlfriend, checked for me. And I almost didn't even know how to respond, because I had completely stopped thinking of it that way. And but I could remember thinking that way, and the whole, like, someone has to check this box and this box and this box and this box is, to me, like a really antagonistic way to go about trying to find someone that you actually love, because the foundation of it is judgment, and it's totally like cutting you off from a lot of people that you probably could be friends with. Another example is, I remember being in college, and these guys I was living with at the time were not exactly like the like polished, or like they didn't bear any of the hallmarks of like winners who were going to take on life and have successful careers. They like left rotting food on the floor. They skipped most of their classes, like spent most of the days watching TV and stuff, and just by the way, if that's where you're at, by the way, like no hate, but they were watching some movie, or maybe they were watching Friends or something, and Sandra Bullock was on the screen, and they were just talking about how Sandra Bullock wasn't their type, and that they would totally not go for her if they had the chance. It's like totally delusional, in my opinion, totally delusional, and really, really judgmental. Like, it was so ridiculous to say that, like, they wouldn't find that kind of person attractive, and that was the whole of their calculation. You know what I mean? Like, she's not hot enough for me, so I would never go for it. It's like, you're so judgmental. It's clearly a defense mechanism. You know what I mean? And I just think that that's maybe the big difference between having the lens of checking boxes versus fighting for a relationship and fighting for the best version of someone that you can be lifelong friends with. And it's totally different. And I'm not, I don't know, this is not like a moralizing lesson. Like, I was this way. I was totally this way. I think even after my wife and I met, I was this way for a while. Like, there are lots of people in high school and college that I probably could have had deep friendships with. And I'm not saying any of them are my wife. I totally, absolutely love my wife. But I think what I'm trying to say is, I think I was harsh to people that I didn't need to be. And that goes even just for even not romantic relationships. I think I was very much protective of my time and my social scene, and I was not very generous with people who I could have been better friends with if I had just given them a little bit more of my time and attention and care. And it's just sad. Honestly, in retrospect, it's just sad, because I realized how much of that judgment and anxiety was totally an internal thing. It didn't have to be that way at all. And people pick up on it too. Like, there's a certain cruelty to passive aggressive judgment. And I think part of the cruelty of it is that it just makes people feel like they're not good enough. And I just strongly sense that that's a lot of how dating is this way. And I know I met my wife on Tinder, 6 years ago. So it's been a while since I've been in that environment at all. But it sucked my soul, you know, and I felt like I had a lot going on. You know, I was on there, like, when did I meet my wife? I was 21, 22. And at that point in time, I was flying around the world, you know, for like business, and felt like I really had my stuff together. I felt like I'd really curated my profile, you know, like I felt like I checked all the boxes. And I also felt like I had to. And even then, it was a totally soul-sucking, soul-crushing experience. Because people have such impossible standards for who they think they deserve to have. And I think that's maybe the hardest thing and hardest realization in retrospect, you know, that it's really worth pursuing friendship over filtering people so aggressively. I was just lucky enough that at the time my wife and I matched, I had made the commitment to myself that I would only talk to one person at a time, and I was completely done trying to play the game. I was completely done trying to like have the perfect profile. I was completely done trying to have clever pickup lines and be overly funny. I was just going to talk to people like a normal human being, and I was just going to go one at a time, and eventually I would meet someone who connected with me. And you know, my opening message to my wife was, she had a picture of her studying abroad in Europe, and she was wearing cowboy boots, and I was like, no way, are you wearing cowboy boots in Europe? Like, that's kind of funny. And that was it. Like, that's the whole thing, and that's how it started. And I was still on the road for a little bit before we had our first date, and we just, you know, we're friends. We just were friends. It was fun even just texting with her back then. Still is. When you live together, you text less. So yeah, you know, it was a different foundation, and I wasn't trying to, you know, play some kind of manipulative dating, you know, game with her. I was in no rush for how the relationship should go. I wasn't after like a hookup, you know. And I think a lot of how you interact with people does depend on your intention. I think people can kind of pick up on that too, you know, like if you are like, how many great relationships is it possible that, you know, any one of us have sacrificed because we were trying to like, we were trying to follow the formula for like pickups and dates and stuff. And it's just, I don't know. I mean, it's like the message that we're participating in is like, we're not good enough as of who we are, you know. So we have to pretend, or we have to put on this kind of mask. And like, there's a certain amount of like fun and flirtatious pretending that happens right in the beginnings of any relationship. But it doesn't mean you're being completely disingenuous. It's not like you're following some pickup artist playbook or something, you know. So anyway, I think the other part of the judgment thing that makes me sad is it's like, it's like we think we're so perfect, you know. We almost judge and hold high standards for who we think we deserve, because at least it was this way for me, and maybe I don't know if it's the same way for you, but for me, I would have had a certain amount of shame about taking a girl on a date or bringing a girl to like a social setting or whatever that didn't meet kind of who I thought I deserved to have by my side as a reflection of me, you know. And that's just brutal. It's such a bad, it's so bad. It's so bad. But yeah, I mean, like, I felt shame about who if I wouldn't be able to like get a girl that I thought was good enough. And I just want to smack my former self, you know. The way that we judge others is truly a reflection of like a lot of our own insecurity. Because your true love, you know, and I don't want to get into the whole there's only one true love or not or whatever, but like someone that you could be with forever, for life, could be hidden from you behind your own judgment, right? Like you might categorically like exclude them as someone that you're even potentially interested in, when all they need, like the thing that they actually need to become the person that you'll love forever, is the love and attention and care. And that was definitely my experience with my wife. You know, like my wife has had profound struggles with her mental health since the first day I met her, and it's only just recently that things have gotten better. And I've been with her 6 years, you know. But the most incredible experience I've ever had in my entire life is loving her through the pain, and loving her despite the fact that it was hard, and despite the fact that there has been, you know, I will not get into the details here, maybe another time, but anyone who knows someone who struggles with their mental health, or who has struggled with it themselves, you know, it's no freaking joke, you know. And there's been a lot of pain, and we've even had times where like she had to go live somewhere at like a facility for months before she could come home again, just so that she wasn't, you know, in danger. And loving her through that process, and knowing that, like, I don't know what it is. I think when you really love someone, you can just see who they are at their core, and everything else you can forgive and dismiss as long as they're willing to walk the path with you. And I, at some point, just decided, you know, I would rather give... Oh, it's starting to rain. Might have to wrap up here soon. Well, let's see how bad it gets. I'm gonna put this in here. I don't mind a little rain, but if it starts to really pour, it's getting a little dark over there. We'll see. Nah, hang on. We're gonna do this in 2 parts. I'm gonna move inside. Oh boy. One sec, guys. Okay, so we have moved inside. It's pouring a little bit. Anyway, I think the point I was on is that my personal experience falling in love and being in love with my wife has it's taught me a lot, because when you love someone who is not currently the fullest version or the best version of themselves, then, especially when they're really struggling, you take up their burden with them. And I mean, it's almost been like magic, you know, loving her unconditionally no matter what, and her loving me unconditionally no matter what. It's not like I was perfect, you know. She has certainly been through the ringer with me, and both of us have always been in pursuit of the best version of the other person. And because of that, we've completely built each other up, and we've gotten through hard times together, and we're stronger than ever. And I'm really, in some ways, it feels wrong to say, but in some ways I'm really grateful for the hardship, because I know that now that we've gotten through it, I know how strong we really are. And I don't think that there's ever going to be anything that's going to get in the way of that. But all of that love and all of that strength and the tightness of that bond, and the assurance that I'm not going to be alone and that she's not going to leave me, has all come from both of us humbling ourselves and being willing to do the work to be the person we needed to be for the other person. And you just, I don't know, you can't demand it. You have to just live it and love it. Love them. I mean, I suppose you walk the walk, and you just keep walking, and you just keep walking, and you just keep going. And it's so much more fulfilling. It's so much deeper and more impactful than anything else I've ever experienced in my entire life. And I just laugh at how superficial I used to be. They're too thin, they're too thick, they're too short, they're too tall, they're blonde, not brunette, they're brunette, not blonde. I like redheads more than I like girls with black hair. Oh, she doesn't have blue eyes. Oh, she doesn't have brown eyes, green eyes. Oh, she likes the same kind of music I do. She has to want to be outdoors. She has to be funny, smart, kind. Like we just have like these checklists, and people have these checklists, and they're so superficial. It's like, who could be your best friend for life? And if you haven't met them yet, then that's fine. And I'm also not saying that I have an answer to the problem that culture has become so superficial, but just stop acting that way. Just stop being a part of that world. And I promise you there are still people out there that don't make romantic judgments this way. There are tons of girls out there who are not trying to be like some TikTok, influencer girl who wants 6 feet tall, 6-figure income, the other six, it's not the online dating world and what we see on social media and stuff has created a totally skewed impression of the way that romance works. You think it's going to be easier to meet someone in person, but I'm not here to give dating advice. All I'm here to do is to encourage the idea that rather than having a checklist of criteria that someone needs to live up to be good enough for you, that you're willing to look at someone who you could be friends with who doesn't measure up to your standards, maybe at all, and love them anyway. And that loving them anyway and giving up the things that you superficially think that you want will transform your life. It transformed mine. It transformed mine completely. There are a lot of things that I used to want that I have given up to be there for my wife. And I don't regret it at all, not one bit. And I think convincing 18, 20-year-old, 22-year-old me of that would have been pretty hard, pretty damn hard. But the things I wanted were the things that every young person wants. I wanted to travel. I wanted to be free. I wanted to, just all the typical things. I don't. I just don't think I really knew from experience what mattered to me back then. And so I decided I wanted all the things that sounded the most seductive and alluring. But you find someone who has similar enough values, right? Like, that's definitely one thing that my wife and I have always had, is we've been super aligned on our just our fundamental values. And it's made like our closeness and friendship really grounded. And we've always had tremendous respect for each other. We've never jeopardized the relationship. We've never disrespected the boundaries that we have for each other in terms of what we're comfortable with, or that kind of thing. So I just think that it is friendship, it's values, respect, and just loving the crap out of someone for no reason other than you love them, and that's it. And I would just say that if you're willing to do that, and you're willing to drop your judgment, and you're willing not to be ashamed by your own standards, wherever those come from, that it's going to be a happier path, and it's going to be more worthwhile, and it's going to be really fulfilling. And that's just from my personal experience, And I'll just close one more time with this section from Rules for a Night, and it's just that feeling of let me find it. It's that feeling of healthy, wholesome, and pure. And it does not have to be this heavy, overwhelming thing. You shouldn't be tortured. I don't think that you should be tortured by love, but you can be tortured for it, if that makes any sense. Again, when we first danced, I realized, like a slap to the face, that I loved this woman, body and soul, and had for quite some time. How strange that I never even saw it coming. The whole of my boyhood, I expected love to be wild, out of control, grand, magnificent, whatever, all-encompassing and overwhelming. With your mother, it had felt too healthy, honest, and wholesome to be love. And I just, like he says here, if I were allowed one wish, it would be for each of you to feel the kind of love I feel for and from your mother. And just the way that my wife and I's relationship has developed and the bond that we have now, I wish that for everybody. I really do. And it's not that we're some kind of crazy example. It's just like that is the power of loving someone unconditionally and seeing it through with them. You're on a quest together. Love is not a shopping spree. It's not checking boxes. It's not looking for some luxury good. It is like holding on to that childhood ideal, and that you can have that forever and with somebody else who loves it who wants it the same way that you do. And that's it. That's the message. I think anymore I'm going to go around in circles and kind of start repeating myself, but thanks everybody. Come on, buddy. Y'all can say hi to my dog, our dog. And with that, I'm signing off. See you in the next one. Thanks.